We're going to start with our first guest tonight. We've got an outstanding show lined up for you tonight. Our first guest for the next 2 hours is Barry Strohm. Barry is well, I'm going to let Barry read his bio because it is so interesting. He is an author. I am so excited to have him here. I've received his book. I have not had a chance to read it in detail, but we're going to talk about his work. He lives in Park City part of the time, and then he has a business that he runs in Pennsylvania, and we're going to talk about his business and living here in Utah and his work. He was a non-believer for over 60 years with a scientific background, business management degree, civil engineering license, a minor in statistics and geology. He worked in the construction aggregate industry for most of his life. So we're going to go ahead and get Barry on the line. Oh, hold on one second. Barry, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio and K-Talk.
Hey, good evening, Pat. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's an honor to have you, Barry. How's your weather out there? Now, you're in Pennsylvania at the moment, right?
Right now I'm in Pennsylvania. We had a high of almost 80 degrees here today.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, we had, Tuesday we had an unbelievable storm come through, so I'm sure where you're located, you may even still have some snow on the driveway up there.
Well, I wish we did. I tried skiing there last month and it sure didn't go well.
I know. It sure did. I was up in Logan for work on Tuesday, and it was close to 70 degrees. We had horrific winds all day, and then about 4:30, it went from 70, it dropped down to 33 degrees, and trying to make my way down Sardine Canyon, it was just like a blizzard. I never saw a storm like that. We live on the west side, so we got the lake enhancement. We had close to a foot of snow Wednesday morning.
Oh, my God. One thing about Utah, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
That's right. It'll change. Anyway, it's an honor to have you here, and I just gave a little bit of a bio, but why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background, Barry, and kind of where things are, where things started for you and your work today, and we've got plenty of stuff to talk about here tonight. So interesting. I'm so looking forward to this.
Well, I hope we don't disappoint you.
You won't.
For an awful long time in my life, I laughed at people that believed in spirits, thought they could talk to them, thought they could get messages from them. I was a civil engineer. I worked in construction. And I would actually laugh at people that would come forward with ideas like I have it. Like, if I would have run into myself 20 years ago, I would have thought I was a huge joke. About 25 years ago, I bought this building here in Pennsylvania. It was an abandoned shoe factory. It was built in 1877. Mm-hmm. But when I bought it, it had laid vacant for about 15 years. We purchased it, remodeled it, converted it into an antique gallery, and I was doing other things at the time, so I had a full staff that was running the store here. The staff would tell me about bizarre things, and I would laugh at them. I would ask them what they were drinking on that particular night. And then about 8 years ago, when the economy turned, we got forced to come back here full time. And I started to realize that there was a lot going on here that was beyond my understanding. We had a professional group come in to do an investigation, and the results were so amazing from that investigation, I became hooked in it, began taking paranormal pictures, doing photography. My store is located about 8 miles from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I would go out on the battlefield, and I started taking pictures and got amazing results out there. I almost became obsessed with the whole program. As a result of the pictures that I took, I wound up writing my first book. It was called Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg, and in it I published about 220 ghost pictures. Mm-hmm. I have full-bodied apparitions of Civil War soldiers. I even have a couple pictures of angels in it out in the battlefield. The first book actually worked as a background that let us get involved more deeply in the paranormal, and we started doing channeling sessions, working with a gifted medium from the area here. And once we started doing the channeling sessions, we just got deeper and deeper into it, and the more we tried, the better messages we got, and we wound up channeling some very famous people. And as a result of the channeling, information. And I wound up writing my second book, which just came out a couple months ago, called Afterlife: What Really Happens on the Other Side, and it's based on our channeling sessions. Now, we channel a little bit differently than what a lot of other people do. Okay. The word channeling refers to basically opening the channel with the other side that the spirits can communicate. We do it by way of board channeling. Not a Ouija board. We have a board that we actually have let the spirits design. It has numbers and letters in a circle, and we actually use a quartz glass that we put our fingers on. It'll move around and spell out all the words for the messages they're trying to give us. And as you read my book, every message that you see in that book, I have on video and audio tape, because I have recorded every channeling session we've ever done, and I feel we've done over 300 hours of talking to the other side at this point.
Wow. That's quite a bit from a guy who didn't believe in it not that long ago.
It's actually quite amazing, but once you understand how the spirit guides work, you can understand how your life is really kind of preordained, and they lead you down roads, and they educate you, and you wind up doing amazing things that you never thought you'd be doing.
Well, obviously, life-changing things.
That's an understatement, yes.
Yeah. You're building. Well, I want to a couple. Can I just interject a few things? Couple little questions.
Sure, go for it.
So with your first book, I've had many guests on the program over the years where they talk about Gettysburg, Valley Forge, where people have gone there, and now these are if you want to call it, people like yourself, kind of they were non-believers not that long ago, and thought that there were reenactments going on the battlefields, and saw these groups of soldiers, and then 5 minutes later they're all gone. Have you experienced that, Barry, where you went out there and you saw what you thought was a reenactment were figures, but they obviously were from a different dimension and time and place?
I've never really seen that type of a vivid action out there. I do see movement. I see orbs in the air. We see a lot of different things. A lot of it shows up on my camera as things that are objects that we really can't see by eye. Right.
So you let the camera do the work, and the cameras pick quite a bit of stuff up.
Yeah, we go out. I actually have a light bar with 3 different cameras on it. I have one shoots full spectrum. I have one that'll shoot a very fast shutter speed, and I have a third camera that just kind of shoots medium stuff. But when I get images, I try to get them on multiple cameras as proof of their existence.
Because do they all show something a little bit differently, or are they all the same?
They'll all be similar. Sometimes objects are moving so rapidly you get a different look at them. Yeah. But the whole idea is to get them on the multiple cameras. And sometimes the objects move so fast, you'll shoot 3 cameras and only have it on one of them.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, and again, places, I would assume places like Valley Forge and Gettysburg, again, is the highline of your book states, 52,000 people died in that location. That's a lot of life that was there and then was extinguished in the name of war. A lot of souls left behind.
Yes, a lot of them died very violently, and a lot of them are still out there fighting.
Do you think that some of these with these spirits that you've with the connection that you've built, do you feel that some of these individuals, maybe like you said, they're still fighting? Do you believe that some of them may not even realize they're gone?
Absolutely. There's a chapter in the book where we talk about the channel of the unknowing dead. Most of the spirits we deal with absolutely know they passed. They know they're intelligent. You can talk to them. But one night we were out and it was the 4th of July, and we were actually at my medium's house, and she lives on what would have been one of the retreat routes that the Confederates would have taken on the 4th of July. They thought Pickett's charge took place on the 3rd, and then on the 4th they were in full retreat trying to get out of Pennsylvania. We started channeling on their patio of all places, and a spirit comes in, and the first thing he does when he comes in is he says, "What is this manner of dress? You know, what is happening? Am I dreaming?" It took me a little while to catch on for what was taking place. But I asked him if he was a Confederate soldier, and he said yes. And I said, "Are you trying to pass over?" And he says, "No, I'm defending the rear of the column." And all of a sudden it dawned on me that this guy had no concept of the fact that he had passed. And having written a historical book on it, I started asking him historical questions. And he could answer them just right on the button. He had fought with Archer's brigade. I asked him what happened to Archer. General Archer was captured the first day. He told me about that. He told me about helping to fill in the command and the confusion that it caused. And he knew the exact spot where he fought. I threw some trick questions at him. He answered those correctly. And he actually thought he was still fighting. During the session, people started putting off fireworks. And he said, petrified, the Yanks are firing on us. He thought that the fireworks were actually cannon fire. And we asked him to come up so we could take his picture, which he did. And in my book, I actually have a picture of him looking at a Confederate flag we were flying. But one interesting thing, I asked the guy whether he believed in ghosts. And he goes, "No, I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in heaven." So here we had a ghost that didn't believe in ghosts. I mean, it was one of the more amazing sessions that we've ever held, and it's a very, very interesting chapter in my book, Afterlife.
So he had no idea that he passed. He felt that he was still alive and doing his duty.
Absolutely. He said, "I am with my men. We're camping in the tree line down here." And I said, "Can you bring your men up with you?" And he said, "Can you guarantee my safety?" And I said, "Yes, we can guarantee your safety. Nothing's going to happen." He comes up, and Barbara Lee, the medium, she could feel their presence, and I actually wound up getting some pictures of them on my cameras.
Now, I don't have that book that you're out of the Gettysburg book, but were you able to see them with your naked eye, Barry, or sense them, or see an outline or an apparition, or was it
I could feel the energy. I couldn't see them,
but the camera picked up something.
The camera picked up a very firm image. It's actually in the Afterlife book, that chapter.
Okay, I'll have to take a look at that. Do you think it's because? And here's a question for you. You know, a lot of times, of course, the human eye. I mean, we can only see 2% of the light. Of the light spectrum as humans. Obviously, the camera can capture stuff if something is coming across, or is, I don't know if I want to say flashing or blinking, but it appears the camera can catch the moment where the human eye maybe just can't process it. So, the energy or whatever, maybe the camera is, not that the camera is smart, but that picture grabbing that millisecond is just enough to capture the scene, if you will.
Well, a lot of the activity takes place in the infrared spectrum, or that's night vision. When we shut down here at the store, our security cameras that have the infrared lenses on it pick up activity here in the store every night.
Really? Wow.
And that's animals are very sensitive to spirit activity, and that's because they can see into the infrared spectrum.
Well, a lot of times, yeah, when you see, I know at our house we've got 2 cats and 2 dogs, and every now and then they'll look into they'll look down a hallway or look into another empty room, and sometimes you figure it's just something they hear, but sometimes it's interesting. You'll see one, and then all of them will turn and look the same way. So obviously they could see something we can't.
Oh, animals are very sensitive to it. We see it all the time when people bring dogs into the store.
Really, really.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: so with this Confederate, with this soldier that you were able to make contact with, obviously his cohorts or his men don't realize that they're gone either.
Nope, all his men were in the same channel. We asked the guides one night, This channel of earthbound spirits is something that I don't have a lot of understanding on. We tried to ask the guides one night, why they don't interfere with it, with helping them to pass, and his simple answer was, it's not something we interfere with. Now, on the back cover of Afterlife, my book, I have a picture of a real angel. It's a little hard to see on the back cover, but when you blow it up on the computer, you can see that this angel actually has the body of a soldier in its arms. So I really think that the angels help the soldiers to pass on and to move them on.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean that to pick up a whole grouping, have you ever through the channel, have you ever been able to carry on conversations like this gentleman that came through? Obviously he doesn't know that he's passed on, but is there a way, have you ever tried to obtain a name and then go back and do some historical work?
Yeah, we've had instances where we have obtained names. I have two pictures of a Confederate cavalry officer. I took one, and 9 months later, I took a picture of him at the same place. We took Barbara out, and she actually channeled with him and got his name. His name was John Reed. And if you go on the Gettysburg death roster, there's 2 Reeds were killed, but they're in another place of the battlefield and on another day. I had a subscription site that actually will scan tombstones, and on that site, they had a picture of a tombstone in Abbeville, South Carolina, that read, J. Reed, killed first day at Gettysburg. So from us channeling his name, we found where he was buried.
Wow. Interesting. Because you would kind of figure that somebody who is who passes and then is able to make contact with you, you would figure that they would know they were gone unless their life was taken in an instant. And on a battlefield, obviously, you could be standing there fighting, and then 2 seconds later, a bullet is put through your chest, and that's it. It's over. Probably don't even know what happened to you.
That happened in a lot of instances. Those were really big bullets they shot in that war.
Yeah, like ball bearing size. Yeah, just absolutely ginormous, rounds. Unbelievable. Wow, very interesting, Barry. Yeah, with your channel, do you use the same person to help with the channeling all the time?
No, we actually do different things. We were taught board channeling by our friends out actually in Salt Lake City. They had the Ninth House bookstore down on 3443 South State Street, and we were invited to attend a session with them down there, and I had never even seen board channeling before. And I sat down with them, and all of a sudden I'm getting personal messages of information that nobody out there had any idea was going on. And they taught us how to do it, and we actually still Skype with them. Kay and Doc are out in Utah with the board, and I'll sit back here on Skype, and I will ask the questions, and they will call out the letters out in Park City, and we copy them down here, and we get our messages. So we actually Skype 2,000 miles apart, believe it or not. Now, you'll see some skeptics on board channeling say that you and the person will influence the movement of the indicator. Mm-hmm. So we do it from 2,000 miles, and when I ask a question, they have no clue where I'm coming from out there.
Right.
And they will absolutely answer this thing, and this is how we prove the accuracy of board channeling, and it's really not a contrived instance.
Interesting. Do you get a lot? Have you had skeptics challenge you in the past?
All the time.
Right. Yeah.
The wonderful world of the internet lets anybody challenge you at any second of any day.
Right. Well, where I think the credibility comes, if in general with your work, is in anybody. I just feel that so many people have, over the years, so many people have been skeptical about things like yourself, saying that, it's like ufology. People saying, that's just craziness. There's lights in the sky. There's nothing to it. But until it hits home and you experience it, and obviously you experience it at a level that you did where you just want to delve into it and find out exactly about it. I mean, to me, that's what makes, your story so much, even that much more amazing, is because you were a skeptic, you were a non-believer, and it probably had to do a lot of convincing. You had to do, there had to be a lot of convincing there to make you turn to go this direction. Because let's be realistic, just like doing this program, we've been doing this for 5 years. We're in our 5th year of doing it. I don't consider myself a ufologist. I don't consider myself a paranormal researcher by any means. I just consider myself kind of a researcher's researcher, if you will, and bring people to the table like yourself, because there's so many people that have interest in this, Barry, and it's changing. Like with you, it changes people's lives. Maybe potentially religious beliefs that people have had for just generations, passed down family to family, and more people are now coming out and challenging things, and they're saying, I'm not going to take this as gospel, or I'm not going to listen to it because my mom or my grandmother or my great grandmother said it was this way. Now people are starting to think a little bit out of the box, and they're starting to question things. And obviously, you asked some questions, and it took you down a pretty long path.
Well, when we started out, I pushed them for future predictions, because I felt if they would say something and it came true, that would be a damn good indicator,
right,
that we were on the right track. So I started a website, and it's spiritspredict.com. And on that website, I posted 9 months before it happened that the previous pope was going to retire before his time. And 9 months after I posted it, he retired, and that was the first time in 650 years that a pope had quit his job early. And in December of last year, they told me there was going to be an earthquake in Puerto Rico. I posted that in December. In the beginning of January, they had a 6.4 in Puerto Rico. And they predicted many, many other things. And you can go on that website, and you can see a list of outstanding predictions, and you can see the ones that have come true so far. But that was one of the ways in which I tested them in the beginning, was making them give me predictions.
Interesting. Are there things that you've gotten predictions that have scared you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot.
Well, because, yeah.
And I get predictions I'm afraid to print.
Really?
Yes.
Have you ever asked for a prediction for yourself, or do you kind of stay away from that?
I ask them questions. They tell me that I'm on my karma path, that this is what I had arranged in my prior life to do. They tell us that I'm supposed to write 11 books, and I'm on my thirds at the publisher, and 4 and 5 are partially finished. So I assume that's going to give me quite a bit more time.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to talk about some of your future work. Just for our audience that's listening, where can they get your books right now, Barry, if they want to pick up your work?
Well, my books are on Amazon. You can go into Amazon and buy them, or you can go on to one of my websites, like Spirits Predict, and if you click in on the purchase link there, I'll send you a personally signed copy of it.
Gotcha.
But the book's for sale everywhere. It's actually out there worldwide. It's a little hard for me to believe it myself, but it is.
Well, I mean, it's a worldwide audience. It's a worldwide audience that wants to read about these things again, because I think a lot of people are having some of the same, they're experiencing the same things, and they want to know, and they're trying to search for answers. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the board channeling, maybe in a little bit more detail. We've got a commercial break coming up in a minute or so, but maybe on the other side, or maybe in the next hour, we can talk about that.
Sure.
Because that, to me, sounds interesting. I mean, there's Ouija boards, and of course, there's people that, like you said, there's people that channel, but they get it, they receive it, in a different format, or they receive it differently. And what you're using sounds very interesting, and it sounds like it's pretty hard to dispute what's going on with it. It's pretty hard to make it off as a fake. And I'm sure, like a lot of people, you've written a handful of books. It's not going to make you a multimillionaire by any means. The time and effort, by the time you get done, you make nothing on the book. You're not in it for the money. You're in it for letting people know what you've experienced, and obviously, hopefully, other people will come forward and say, "Hey, I've experienced these same things."
Yeah, our board is very different from a Ouija board. When you get off the break, I'll tell you about it.
Okay. Your store now your store that you have in Pennsylvania. How long have you been doing the Golden Lane Antique Gallery? How long have you been in that business?
Well, the store's been here for about 25 years. I've been here fairly regularly for the last 8.
So did you buy it 25 years ago?
Yeah, we bought the warehouse and remodeled it and opened it 25 years ago with the staff. Wow. And I didn't know a darn thing about antiques at the time either. There's also a chapter in my book called It's Preordained.
Okay.
And this was all set up by the spirits for me. It's an amazing story of how I wound up buying this building.
So your warehouse, if we could talk about that, 140-year-old building, 140-year-old abandoned shoe factory. What made you want to buy a factory and open up an antique store?
Well, we bought the antique store simply as an investment. I was in the trucking and construction aggregate business at the time, and this building was laying vacant. And we decided that we were going to go ahead and buy the thing. And I had a partner at the time, and I said, well, I'll help you buy it. But one thing you have to do is make sure that you're the one that takes care of it, because I don't have any time and I don't want anything to do with it.
Right, right.
So that's the way it worked for a while. And the more and more time that I hung around our people, the more they kept talking about all this. And as I said before, I really didn't give it a whole lot of thought. But what we did do when we came back full-time was have a professional investigation. And on that investigation, that was where I met Barbara Lee, the medium that I work with. And as part of the investigation, we were in a far area of the store. And she says that she's talking to a young child. And the child is telling her that she wants to look at her pink doll. And we're sitting in the dark in the far corner of the store, and I don't know of any damn pink dolls in the store.
Right, right.
So I had a K2 meter in my hand. So I said, and Barbara Lee says, oh, and the girl's name is Clarissa. So I say, Clarissa, can you come near the K2 meter and make it blink? Well, all of a sudden, the meter in my hand starts blinking away. So I had to assume she was there. So I said, Clarissa, can you make it blink once for yes and make it blink twice for no? And she makes it blink once, which was the code for yes. So I said, would you like to show us your pink doll? And it blinks once for yes. So we're in the dark, and we start across the store, and we come to the first aisle. And I said, Clarissa, should I turn on this aisle? And it blinks twice for no. We come to the next aisle, and I say, Clarissa, should we turn here? And once again, it blinks twice for no. We come to the third aisle, and I say, Clarissa, should we turn here? And it blinks once for yes. We turn left, we start down the aisle, and we get about 20 feet, and all of a sudden, Barb loses contact, the meter stops blinking, everything comes to a halt, and we totally lost her.
Right.
Wow, that was something. So we go back, finish up what we were doing, and it's time to take a break. So I'm walking through the store, and I'm coming back, turn the lights on, I'm coming back from the opposite direction, and I look up at the area where we lost contact with her, and there's a case there, and right on the edge of the case is an old pink doll.
Wow.
It led us 150 feet through the store with 3 commands and taken us right to the doll. So, yeah, after that, I really started to believe we had something going on here.
Were you you obviously you kind of bought the place as an investment when you got in there, so it was just an abandoned building pretty much when you first took it over?
When we took it over, It was abandoned. It was full of trash. We took truckloads of trash out of it. We had to put in new electric cases. We spent a lot of money fixing it up, but it was a totally abandoned building when we took it over.
And so it was a shoe factory before. Did you do any research into the history of the factory that maybe would leave some of these, like this little child, any digging into the roots of why she was hanging out there?
Well, actually, we have historical documentation on her. She died in an accident in scalding water when she was 8 years old. She's actually buried in a cemetery across the street, and we have found newspaper clippings telling of her accident. But she still plays the neighborhood. I guess she still likes it here.
So she's in and out of here. How about other people? No, it was a shoe. Did anybody by chance? Has anybody passed away in the building, or did anybody get hurt in the building? Be it a factory, did any deaths occur there?
Well, at first we thought that was it, but that's not. In our channeling sessions, we've actually talked to 8 different employees that worked here. We asked them why you're still hanging around, and they said, well, it was like one big family, and we still enjoy getting together here. So we've actually had customers see the ghost of employees walk by them in the store.
Wow, interesting. When speaking of antiques, one question I had for you was, obviously, a lot of times we hear of material things, not only material things, but of people that do paranormal research. They get attachments and material things that can have things attached to. In your years of doing this, and now digging in, now with your next career, with everything that's going on, you've obviously in an antique store, you get a lot of old stuff brought in through the door. From time to time, do you get stuff that comes in that may have which you feel may have some strange attachments to it?
Oh, we have absolute spirit attachments in here. We had an oil painting of a man, and we talked to him, and we found out that his name was Joseph, and he actually didn't like the music we played in the store, and he was very, very strong attachment to this oil painting. And I had when people come into the store and say they're sensitive, I'll usually let them walk by areas without saying things, and I let this person walk by this oil painting, and it was like somebody grabbed her by the arm and jerked her, and she had no idea, and she goes, "Let go of my arm," and it was the spirit attachment that actually jerked her arm and tried to get her to go into the booth where he was. So we knew that this was quite a hot spot in the building, and we talked to him on the ghost box, and whatever music we played, he just didn't seem to like it. So one day I'm up front at the checkout area. This lady comes up and she says to me, "There's an oil painting back here that's talking to me." Well, I always, a lot of people say antiques talk to them, and that's why they buy them. So we go back, and she points out the oil painting, and it turns out that it's Joseph. So I said, "Can you tell me how he's talking to you?" And she said, "Well, he's asked me to go home because he doesn't like the music you play here. So I'm going to buy him and take him home with me." So the woman buys a $1,500 oil painting and takes Joseph home, and we haven't heard a word since.
Wow. She found what she was looking for.
Uh-huh. I hope you like the music at her house.
Barry, you want to take a call?
Sure.
All right, hold on a second. Caller, good evening. You're on with Barry Strohm.
Hey, guy, I didn't want to, hang up. When I called in, you asked the very question I was going to ask.
Oh, okay.
About individual items that people become very attached to. Not just me, myself and my ex-wife, who's fast now, we collected antiques for years, 30 years. And, there was some pretty strangeness around a lot of it. And I think that people of the past, they just kind of want to hang on to their stuff. I haven't passed yet, and I want to hang on to the stuff that I sold because I was an idiot.
They almost meld with it.
Say again?
I said they almost meld with it. They kind of join with it almost. Maybe that sounds crazy, but maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds.
Geez, maybe that's exactly what it is.
What do you think, Barry?
Yeah, sounds. I mean, I've got a lot of other stories about spirit attachments that'll knock your socks off too. It's a very real thing.
Yeah, after she passed, I stopped collecting. I sold a bunch of stuff because I kind of fell out of work for a while, and I just had to sell everything. And so I just kept collecting Japanese flower arranging baskets. That's all. They're easy. They don't break. All sorts of neat things about them, Ikebana. But, I know where he's coming from. The building's got its spirit, and so does the stuff, man. That's like pouring kerosene on fire with the stuff.
Yeah.
It's just cool.
Oh, it is. It is. Hey, thanks for calling in, Harv.
Yeah, it wasn't much, but
No problem. I beat you to the punchline tonight.
all right, guys.
Take care. Yeah, I can imagine again. Let's hear about some of the other things. What else do you have there that what else is? What are some other unique things that have talked to you or others?
Well, we had a big mirror here, and I actually use this in my lectures, the photograph. And during the investigation, we have a picture of an investigator standing and looking into the mirror, and on each shoulder he has a full-bodied apparition. And the woman on the one side is like a photograph. When we saw it, we tried to figure out who in the group it was a photograph of. But it's one of the finest apparition pictures that I've ever seen. So I didn't realize it was an attachment. So we sell the mirror. I'm off doing an antique show, and I get back and I see the mirror's gone. So I don't think a whole lot about it. And then about 6 months later, the people that bought the mirror come in. And they say, well, we've had some really bad luck. I said, what happened? They said, well, our house burned down. I went, uh-oh. They said the firemen came, and they thought they put the fire at the house out, and they left. And after the firemen left, it caught fire and burned to the ground. But, when the firemen came, the only piece of furniture that was saved from the house was that mirror that we bought here. So as it turns out, that mirror, when the firemen came, they carried it out of the house, and that's the only piece of furniture that survived the fire. So that mirror is still out there.
Wow. They say that different people have mentioned about mirrors. There's a lot more to mirrors than just looking in the mirror and watching yourself shave and combing your hair. Have you done any research on mirrors? I know people talk about figures coming through mirrors, reflections. Have you ever looked into any of that?
Oh, absolutely. When we have a room downstairs where we do our paranormal sessions. We have infrared cameras where we watch them live. But as you watch them live, you'll see them come through the mirrors. They actually use that mirror for interdimensional changes.
Wow. Yeah, because we did a program here several months ago. We had a gentleman, one of the local paranormal research groups was helping out, is still helping out. Have a gentleman that bought a home over in South Mountain in Draper, and he has had a lot of crazy things happen there. And crazy things is not really the right word to use, but I guess that's the most common thing I can come up with. He in his unfinished basement, he has the house is fairly new, about 8 years old, very big house, 6,700 square foot, very large home. In the basement, there's a utility tub down there and a washer and dryer, and then over the utility wash sink there is a large mirror. And he was down there one day. He was out in the yard. He came in and went down there and was washing his hands and stuff like that. And as he looked up in the mirror, a figure appeared in the mirror. So if you could imagine, he's in this fairly dark basement. This figure appeared. Well, what he said was like a square, a black as black square appeared on the mirror, and then a figure appeared to come out of this square. And he just thought, well, maybe he was, it was in the summertime. This is several years back. He thought maybe he was just tired, and this figure appeared. And then basically right after that happened, he has gone through literally 4 years of hell in that house. Actually, he thought he was maybe a target of gang targeting or whatever, and has gone to the police, the FBI, every agency available. Everybody thought he was kind of a crackpot, and he turned to several different paranormal groups. And after, I believe it's about 4 or 5 years now, I don't know the exact the timeline on this, but through the help of mediums, psychics, people that kind of know what they're doing, he's gotten the house back under control. But he feels that he opened up some sort of a portal or gateway, something through that, whatever he saw in that mirror, things went crazy right after that happened.
Absolutely, yeah. Ghosts go through interdimensional changes and various dimensions, and they will use that mirror to go from the hidden dimension into the dimension that we can see. And they don't all have to be good. Have to be good spirits.
Right. Have you? Well, let me put it this way: we've got to take a break. We've got an NBC News break coming up. Can we keep you for another go around?
Oh yeah, sure.
So
I'm here for the duration.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about maybe some of the not so good things that have happened. Obviously, a lot of great things have happened, but maybe we can talk about some of the other stuff. Our guest tonight here is Barry Strohm. You can check out his 2 books. His current book is called. I'm looking here. It's been a long day for me, Barry. The current book is Afterlife.
Yeah, Afterlife.
And then the other book is the Gettysburg book, Battle of Gettysburg.
Haunting and History of the Battle of Gettysburg.